Welcome to another episode of the TeacherZone with Chris and Tyler. Chris, tell everybody what today's topic is.
Today, we're going to be talking about the 8 things that that's right, you should automate right now in your lesson or class business so you can create more time and make more money. And so let's remember, money is not bad. Money's a metaphor for providing good in the world. So the more people you help, the more money you make, the more resources you have so you can help more people. It's just a cycle, right? So 8 things you should automate right now. So Tyler, you and I just talked about it. We're going to do this in 2 parts. So the first part, so basically there's 8 things. So guess how we're going to split it up, Tyler? Should we do 4? Yeah, I think we should.
And we're coming in hot off of recording a bunch of Diginos to help you all with some other stuff we do with the software. And they are related. So we're on fire right now, ready to go. And I think the first one is registrations in your business. Like, for instance, let's say, I don't know, whatever industry you're in, maybe you have a summer deal going on at your jiu-jitsu academy and an ad just kicked in and you have 103 people that want to come to your academy. That's a lot. And your administrator, or maybe you, or some of your instructors might be in charge of this, but either way, 103, how are you going to sift through that efficiently? Well, registration in an automated fashion can clear all of that up, right, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, by automating it, what we mean is that you can have different ways that others can access your online registration. So it's basically first implementing online registration. So if you haven't implemented online registration, you really need to. And so because, obviously there's a myriad of services out there, but by putting it online, what you're now saying is that when I'm sleeping, someone can register. Right. They don't have to wake you up. Hey, Tyler, wake up. I want to register for that class.
So we'll call that one access. So access from anywhere, right? That's, I think, what you're getting at. Right. Whether you're sleeping, whether your admin's on the phone, whether an emergency happened, you've now delegated this automated registration widget, link, whatever it is you've chosen to use. TeacherZone.com has a great one. That's now everybody has access, whether it's Facebook ads, It could be anything. Now there's access.
And what's great about that too is instead of the old school, like having to manually do it where people are calling in and drowning your admins, now what's cool about doing it online is that, as Tyler said, you can have all sorts of things embedded in your website. So literally from your ads, it lands straight on the landing page for registration. So when we say automation, we mean that like a human doesn't need to be involved in that beginning part of the process. So there's lots of options, but for instance, a wait list. If you have groups, what's great is that you can even have the software that you use have caps on the groups and then put people on a wait list after they're over a certain number too. So automating registrations, putting them online is massive. It'll save your admins a lot of time. It'll gather better data. And most importantly, it gathers, if you do it properly, then upon registration, they're either paying or at least you're capturing their payment info so they're ready to go.
Right. And not to mention the last little thing that, and payments, that pops them right into your payments. That's done. Yeah. But sorting and qualifying your customers. So a good registration software automation, you can pre-program indicator questions to help sort them into groups, because otherwise your admin may not have the mindset that you have to place and connect and get your tribe in the right spots. These registrations can automate your mind and the way you think to make sure that they land where they're supposed to land as customers. So I wanted to bring that up.
So qualifying questions are important, and your staff may not be trained or may not be consistent in asking those questions. I know some of you are using, you have still, I mean, we did for years. You still have the pen and paper questions that you ask folks. That is a system, but it's not accessible anytime, anywhere, 24 hours a day globally. So your customers could literally be signing up for private or group classes while laying on the beach in, the south of France.
But speaking of laying on the beach in the south of France, Chris, the next bullet point we're going to go over for today's 4 out of the 8 things you should automate right now is tuition payments. It's perfect. It's a perfect segue. Registration, awesome. Anywhere access, filtered, qualified. And then that leads to, well, payments should be automated as well, whether they're recurring or maybe right off the registration to get in. And if you have a really great software, you can not only register, right, Chris, but it can be a one-time registration or set up for recurring billing or semester billing or whatever. So you're literally done.
Yeah, what's cool, I heard it mentioned years ago, and I've said it, wake up money, right? Because you didn't die in your sleep, right? Today you'll wake up to a deposit. I know it's morbid, but it's a fun term to think about because it doesn't require any effort. Basically, you can be laying on a beach, you can be anywhere, and that money's still going to be collected. It's still going to go into your bank account. So if you want wake up money, right? I woke up today, so that means there's money in my bank. I didn't have to put any effort out. That's what automated tuitions are.
All joking aside, and we love having fun on this podcast. You guys know this. You also know that we're preaching to the choir. Many of our listeners have been automated for years and have automated many systems. And so we're bringing these up just to recap. If there's some listeners out there that are still in the wilderness, you're going to be hearing this for the first time. You need to get off your butts and start now. And those of you that are the choir, if you can hear our wonderful voices again, hey, thanks for listening. Right, Chris?
Well, it's kind of like we had the podcast with Robbie about delegation. If you haven't listened to that, go look for Delegation on the TeacherZone with Chris and Tyler. And that one, he had to be in a hospital before he delegated. So he knew about it from 3 years ago when we talked about it. So if you've not done one of these 8 automations yet, we're trying to repoint them out. So it just reminds you, because we all need reminders. And it's a never ending battle in business to always try and get better.
And Chris, doesn't it make it easier to delegate if you've delegated many of your repeated actions? If actions are being repeated every day anyways, and then you delegate that into a system, then isn't it easier to lead humans at that point to run
people? Yeah. So there's an interesting fact, guys, is that, when they do the maze tests with mice, as an example, their brains, when the first time they go look for the cheese, especially their prefrontal cortex, which is focus, and they just lights up. Their brain, in fact, the whole brain lights up because they're literally confused and they're trying to make sense of this whole and then it takes them a while, and then they finally find the cheese. And then the second time, the brain lights up a little less. After a while, it becomes a habit. In other words, automated. Once it becomes automated, their brain doesn't even light up anymore. You literally drop the mouse and it runs right for the cheese. And so that's what automation can do for your staff, because it means their brains don't have to light up in stress, trying to constantly feel like they're solving problems. They can actually focus on the more important things. Yep. Automation, what Tyler said, any repetitive task is perfect to try and consider automation. So feel free to also to let us know in our private groups or anything. We'd love to hear from you if there's automations that we haven't included in this list. So tuition payments are one. We talked about registration. With tuition payments, the one last thing I would say with that, Tyler, is that some of you have like halfway done it, and you said, well, in my market, people still want to pay by check, or they want to pay when they want to. I'm sorry, but you need to be stronger than that. They don't get to decide. Your job as a leader is to protect your staff and protect your business from things that can weaken it. And not collecting payment will weaken your business.
Yep, we did it. And you've heard it here before. $4,000 behind, $2,000 behind, even if it's only for 5 or 6 days. Okay, cool. Let's flip it around. that customer who's dictating your life on how you should run your business and whatever, what if all of a sudden they couldn't go to your school anymore? How bad of a detriment would that be to their lives? It wouldn't. It wouldn't harm them at all. If all of a sudden they had to stop paying you, do you see the side of the street it is? So why are we worried about that anyways? We add value with them other ways. That's not one of the ways we choose to do it. And I suggest you don't eat. We choose.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. That's a great point. Like, we add value in other ways. Why are you trying to add value on the payment side? You're a business. You're not a charity. Now, some of you are a charity, but even those have to be run well.
What we mean by that.
Yeah. So, okay, number 3. So number 3 on the things you should automate.
Some of you are a charity.
Yeah. But you need to run it soundly, or your board of directors is not going to.
I hope you forget to edit this out. That was just funny. Maybe it's just me. So, anyways, great point, Chris. Great point. What's our next one after automated payments?
But again, even if you're a charity, your point sounds true. In other words, part of your unique selling proposition isn't necessarily giving away the service, right? You're still having it funded. You still need to be organized. You still need it automated. So the number 3 is scheduling. So this idea, yeah, there's so much aspects. I mean, let's face it. We're in a busy world. People are so frenetic. You hear all the time. It's so funny because, now that we're a global society, we hear from our partners and friends around the world all the time. Well, in my area, it's like, well, in a modern world, that is homogenized so much more than it ever has been. Everyone's busy. Everyone wants to reschedule or cancel or what have you because of their, 1,000,001 commitments. It's just part of the global society right now.
And what else are we finding out, though, Chris? We're also finding out that more often than not, the customers, they don't even have time to reschedule.
Right.
Like that's like, yes, they want what they're owed and they want their value, but they're like, shoot, where are we going to put it? Like it's just the schedules are insane.
So we have other podcasts on that topic, but one of the things that we often suggest is you can provide value for the lesson or class without allowing reschedules. But if you are going to allow reschedules, then at least don't burden your staff with it. So you can use software for rescheduling. Obviously, TeacherZone does that, but there's lots out there. Automation is the main point of this, is that you allow people to access a cloud-based schedule so they can see what's going on, and then they can make changes. In other words, based on your rules, cancellation, drop into a class, reschedule owed lessons like bank lessons or credits. So what's really cool is that scheduling nowadays from a cloud-based perspective allows your customers to have freedom all over the world.
Right. You can also sync to your calendar. So the personal calendar that your wife and you share or whatever, and all of a sudden you're part of this new entity or something as a customer, and they come to your school, boom, sync it. If you've got the software, sync it, and all of a sudden those 1 or 2 items a week, which aren't a huge deal to them, but it's one of your million that you have going on, all of a sudden, boop, it's just populated. And I mean, one of our bullet points later is notifications as well. Some softwares will also notify you ahead of time that, hey, are you coming? Are you coming in?
Well, so actually, I have a share on that. So last week, we had our senior Dax graduated high school, and so he had an insane week, graduation week, and so he got the notification about his lesson coming up. And he literally went in, canceled his lesson, put in there, I'm graduating. and then I got the notification and asked him, hey, did you cancel your lesson? He goes, oh, yeah. And in other words, it was so nice because the student who's, in this case, in other words, I'm involved as a parent too. I didn't have to do it. So what's really great is that in the circumstance that you have a responsible enough student, it takes the burden off everyone. It made it so easy and so seamless.
Cool.
So that's an automation. And then the last one in this episode is attendance or checking in. And we think that, that should be automated as much as possible. And if you don't know who's, with teaching with whom or who's in your buildings, then I would say in a modern world, that's probably not safe. It's probably not a good idea culturally. It's probably not a good idea for you to not be keeping track. Attendance is an imperative aspect in today's day and age. And Tyler, tell them how we automate attendance, or how we do it. And I know some other softwares do it.
Well, first of all, the automated side of it is our students can actually check in. So within a 30-minute period, they show up, and then let's say they're part of a big group and there's 14 kids. The director is getting ready to handle all this. He can just say, hey guys, pull out the app and check in, and then double check it when he's ready to get going and see who didn't check in, and then check there. And it saves a little time there. So the kids, or our students at our school, are kind of automating that for our directors because they're so busy anyways herding cats, right? But also for private lessons. So they're just showing up for whatever they're there for on their own, let alone the group. They can do the same thing as well. So that's kind of how we've automated that. The teachers can still take attendance if they want, but it's allowing that extra layer, kind of like going to a gym and then, hitting your scan code. Boom, they know you're there, you're paid and whatever. So that's how we've added it to our actual lesson academy and performance academy.
Yeah, so regardless of whether you're doing group or privates, allowing the students to check in will take a big burden off your teacher. And then all they have to do, so let's say you have a group class and you have 20, and you're like, okay, everybody, if they haven't yet, you don't have a front desk, everybody check in right now, pull out your phones and check in. And the four of them are like, I don't have mine. Well, you can just quickly mark that for them, but you're only having to do 4, not 20. So you can take the burden off an instructor greatly. And then it also allows for that way for roll call, who attended that actual class in the example I just gave.
Right.
So
and
huge.
I'm going to add one more thing here too. So those businesses that are already in our community with the TeacherZone and Chris and Tyler, that are already very, very successful, we're talking in the millions gross lesson academies. They already know that there is no gray area when it comes to knowing when and where someone was at all times. Today, it's just with technology and the cloud and everything, there's just no excuse. And so we'll call them the big dogs. The big dogs, they already know. They've got their Department of Justice. If they teach minors, they got their Department of Justice code. They've got their live scans, codes, and all that kind of stuff. They have these things in place. So what I want to say right now is to the people that want to get there, do you have the vision and growth in your mind? I mean, I think you do. You're listening to this. If you're listening to this because we're some sort of Saturday morning cartoon, sure, I know we're extremely funny and we're two of the funniest guys ever in podcasts. But otherwise, you're probably listening to this for growth, for something bigger than you are by yourself. And that's why we're here. That's why we've grown. So if you're listening to this and you're not up at $1 million a year gross or something like that, know that you can be. But you're going to have to start paying attention to these little details, lock arms with people who've already done it, and get there. And these little things matter. For people who say, oh, don't worry about that. Sure, entrepreneurs say that sometimes because we don't have the time to get there because we're building still. But know that it has to come. Eventually, you're going to have to pay the piper on these little things and get them set up. And sooner.
Well, and you made me think about one of the things that's scheduling automations that we think is important is the no-show.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, if you are not making sure that your students are safe, your families, especially if you're dealing with kids,
and that's just
really
one
appreciate
thing.
That.
No show, safety, no show. Red alert. Are we going to lose a family and potentially $5,000 a year for the business? And is that going to affect my employees and my family and everything like that? No show. There's a lot of things tied into the metrics of something tracking where everybody is at all times. And if there's a way that makes it a no-brainer on every person involved, then why aren't you doing it yet? So that's for those of you that haven't automated.
Yeah, I mean, automating like the no-show alert. Like, so for instance, if a student doesn't show up and they didn't notify you first or cancel first, as we talked about, then are they okay? Right. And so what's great about the no-show alert is that you can actually, there's services out there, or in TeacherZone, you can actually enable, it's almost like an Amber Alert. And our families just love this because they'll call and be like, no, she's fine. I'm so sorry. And Tyler, we've had a couple that, wait, I dropped them off. Right. And so then it's like, okay, let's make sure that, I remember one time, now she's back in the building, but the teacher had already marked no show. So it's super important that you know that. And then also it's super important that you have transparency overall. So as a parent, I just pulled up my son that I spoke about earlier. And I just looked at, we've been using TeacherZone for a number of years. So for the 5 years that we've been using TeacherZone, he's attended 188 hours of private lessons and 221 group lessons. How cool is that?
It's insane.
So I can actually tell as a parent all of the lessons that my son has had, and I just looked it up, Tyler. Guess how many hours of lessons Dax has had since we've been keeping track at our school?
How many?
590.5 hours of instruction.
That's a lot of his life. And this is a little sneak peek to the continuing episode for these 8 things we're going over. That's a lot of progress. I'll say that. That's your little foreshadowing. That's a lot of progress. So right. You're going to have to stay tuned for the next episode to see how progress can be automated and change the lives of your teachers, students, families, and the owners and everything. So I think we covered a lot today, Chris. Like we've got repeat listeners that already have this in place. Hey, you guys, you need to get folks into the know. Okay, so our veterans out there that have been friends with us for years and have already been automating, it's there's nothing like giving back. And so if you want people that you know to get involved, we have a new Facebook group for non-TeacherZone customers. Okay, get them over to it, invite it. If you're not in it, get in it as well. And it is called Accelerating Studios, Academies, and Schools. So it's all those words. Just search Accelerating Studios, Academies, & Schools. Accelerating Studios, Academies, and Schools. Have them answer the questions. Jump in. It's a very active group, and there's a lot to learn in there. So don't leave them hanging out there on their own. We don't need to be alone anymore, and we appreciate all of our listeners. And Chris, I think we're going to have a fun follow-up to the other of the 8 things in the next episode. So
that's your first 4. So thank you, Tyler. I think that as we start to systematize our businesses, as Tyler kind of mentioned early on, it's directly correlated to your revenue growth. And as we said at the beginning, the more money you make, the more people you help. It's that simple.
That's right. So, and that's it. So we're going to conclude today's episode of the Teacher Zone with Chris and Tyler. We appreciate everyone coming out to listen, and we'll see you on the flip side for the following 8 things coming up on the 8 things you need to automate now. Now. We love you guys. We'll see you soon. Sayonara. Bye, Chris.
Bye.